The Cost Containment Dashboard contains 3 tabs: High Usage, Costly Users, and Usage Patterns. The data on this dashboard is viewed by a specific bill month, as selected in the drop-down, and can also be filtered to view all carriers or individual carriers using the View by Carrier drop-down. The High Usage tab gives you the ability to view the top users in a variety of spending and usage categories. These users represent all device invoices loaded in the current month. The height of the 3 bars on the left panel represent the total usage in the current month of data in gigabytes, voice in minutes, and messaging by count of messages. The color bands represent how much of that total usage is attributable to the top percentage of users in that usage category. In the first column, for example, the red band represents the number of gigabytes consumed by the top 5% of data users, orange the next 5%, and so on. The table below indicates the total count of device types represented in the current month's invoice, as well as the number of devices that account for the different percentage color bands, 5, 15, and 75% respectively. The right-hand horizontal bar charts provides you the opportunity to sort various units of usage, including domestic and international view of data, voice, and messaging. The default dimension displays each of these in units of use, sorting from top users in that category in descending order. In some instances, you'll find an option to choose prorated dollars as the display dimension. When you choose prorated dollars, the users will be assigned their portion of the total pool cost, based on the percentage of units consumed from that pool. This view will allow you to see what high users are actually costing the company. In the center, you have 2 different ways of limiting how many rows you'll see in the individual top users chart. You'll either select Top User Percent, which gives you the option of showing the top 5, 10, or 25% of users, or you can pick a minimum usage threshold. An example here, you may wish to choose a floor of 5 gigabytes so that only users with 5 gigabytes or greater will appear in the chart on data usage views. By simply clicking on one of the device numbers adjacent to the individual top users chart, you can drill down to see individual data usage patterns by time of day use, for example. Or you can view detail on voice and messaging, as well as a view of the summary charge and usage information for that month's invoice on the specific device selected. The second tab is the Costly Users tab. This contains a view of the most costly users based on actual invoices and by standard deviation statistics. It categorizes users into 3 separate buckets based on how far they deviate from the overall average invoice cost for the month displayed. Top users represent all the devices that incurred actual charges that were greater than 3 standard deviations from the mean of all devices on this month's invoice. The height of the bar represents the average monthly charge of all users that meet the criteria of a top users. Next are big users whose monthly charges range from 2 standard deviations up to 3 standard deviations from the average invoice cost. Finally, the excess user bar represents the average invoice cost of all users that had charges greater than 1 standard deviation and less than 2 standard deviations from the mean. The height of the blue bar represents the average charge of all devices of this month. In the center is the User Totals table. Each column represents the statistical cost variance categories and the count of devices under Top, Big, and Excess User categories. By unchecking the checkbox for a given category, you'll remove the devices in that category from the right-hand horizontal bar chart. The most costly users appear sorted in descending order by total cost, not including equipment charges. The charges are separated into 4 categories, and their total is identified by placing the cursor over the desired color band on the bar. Recurring charges represent your voice and data plan costs, and any domestic feature charges as well as discounts. Domestic overage would include any data, voice, or messaging domestic overages. International charges include any international feature or international overage charges. Finally, Other will include any remaining charges and credits, as well as taxes. The third tab is the Usage Pattern tab. This tab permits a view of all company data usage by peak and off-peak hours. In the upper right-hand panel is a pie chart that indicates the total percent of data usage that occurred during peak hours and off-peak hours. By default, the peak hours are set to 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays. The settings to delineate peak versus off-peak can be configured to more closely match your company business and off-business hours and days. In the lower panel is a histogram of usage by day for the entire company. The height of the bars reflect the total amount of gigabyte usage on that day. The red bars indicate the amount of business or peak usage, and the yellow bars indicate non-business or off-peak usage in gigabytes. The upper left-hand panel represents two different attributes of the data usage over the past year. The red and yellow line chart will reveal the patterns over the past 12 months of peak versus off-peak usage, as indicated in the left axis. The height of the green bars will indicate the presence of any data overage costs, as indicated in the right axis. For all of these tabs, there's an export button in the upper right-hand portion of the dashboard that will export into a spreadsheet the values behind the data displayed in the dashboard. You may replay this tutorial by clicking on the information icon in the upper right-hand portion of the dashboard. Thanks for watching.